I want to thank you for tuning in to Narrow Life videos. I'm going to continue my series here on the false, evil, wicked church system. And, in the last video we talked about how the Roman Catholic Church was the original first Christian church. And we also know that Jesus said that a good tree cannot produce good fruit, or a good tree cannot produce bad fruit, and a corrupt tree cannot produce good fruit. I think I got that right. But anyway, this video is Jesus issued a warning about this false church system. He gave us the warning. And I just want to read to you here for a minute in Matthew chapter 7, starting in verse 13. And these are the words of Jesus. He said, "Enter ye at the strait gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the way that leads to destruction, and many there be which go in thereat. Because strait is the gate and narrow is the way that leads unto life, and few be there that find it. Beware of false prophets." Now he's telling the true, genuine believers. How do we know that? Because he's talking to the true, genuine believers. And he's saying, "Enter ye the strait gate." And he goes on to say that the strait gate leads to life, and few be there that find it. And then he goes on and says, "Beware of false prophets." Now, just for the point of this video, we're gonna change this a little bit, and we're gonna assume that Jesus is talking about the church system here. Okay, and then we're going to go back and see how it is that Jesus is talking about the church system. But beware of the church system, which comes to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravishing wolves. Now we know that we know what wolves will do to sheep. It will tear them up and kill them and spit them out. That is exactly what the church system will do to the true believer. When we become saved, all that we know, at least according to the modern system in the world, is we go to church. And when we go to church, that church system literally sucks the spiritual life out of us, and we will die. Anyway, let's go on. "Beware of false prophets," or false church, "which comes to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravishing wolves. Ye shall know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes of thorns, or figs of thistles? Even so, every good tree bringeth forth good fruit, but a corrupt tree bringeth forth evil fruit. A good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit, neither can a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit. Every tree that bringeth not forth good fruit is cut down and cast into the fire. Wherefore, by their fruits you shall know them." Now, we know Jesus is talking right here, and he's saying, beware of the false church system or the false prophets, because inwardly they're ravishing wolves, and they will destroy the sheep. And he says, you'll know them by their fruit. A good tree cannot produce bad fruit. A bad tree cannot produce good fruit. And he goes on to say, he says, "Not everyone that saith unto me, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven, but he that doeth the will of my Father which is in heaven. Many will say to me in that day, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in thy name? And have we not cast out devils in thy name? And in thy name done many wonderful works? And then I will profess to them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you workers of iniquity." And then he goes on to say, "Therefore whoever heareth these sayings of mine and doeth them, I will liken him unto a wise man who built his house upon a rock." Now, what is the warning that Jesus is giving us there? Jesus is saying there is a false church, or a false prophet, a false church, and this false church inwardly is like a ravishing wolf that will destroy the sheep. Plain and simple. He's saying that a good tree cannot produce bad fruit. A bad tree cannot produce good fruit. You will know them by their fruits. And he also goes on to say that there will be many that come to me that day saying, Lord, Lord, didn't I do this in your name and this in your name and wonderful works in your name? And he'll say, depart from me, I never knew you. The modern day church system, I believe without a doubt, is what Jesus is talking about in that passage. He's talking to the true believers, the genuine believers, his followers, the ones that the Father has given to him, the ones that were called from the foundation of the world to be conformed to the image of Christ, and he's warning them not to get wrapped up in this church system, because this church system is satanic. It's the Antichrist system. It's the spirit of Antichrist, and it will destroy you like a wolf would destroy a sheep. And then he gives the message to this church system. And what he says to this church system is what? He says, I will destroy you and throw you into the fire. He says, because any bad tree will be cut down and thrown into the fire. Now, we talked about in the last video that the Roman Catholic Church is definitely a bad tree. And we also know that all these denominations that make up this church system today come off of the Roman Catholic Church. So there's no way that that fruit can be good. We have to judge that fruit. Christ says we will know them by their fruit. So we know that the Roman Catholic who supports the worship of Mary, who calls her co-redeemer, who calls her intercessor, we know that that's blasphemy. That's assuming that Mary is a deity, and we know that that is blasphemy and cannot be a good fruit or a good tree. So we know that the Lord is telling us this church system, because we know even if it's talking about the Roman Catholic Church, all of these church denominations that come off of it are bad fruit. So he's saying, beware of this church system. Beware of this false prophet, because it will destroy you. And then he goes on to say, many within this church system, or this false prophet, will say to me in that day, Lord, haven't we done this? Evangelicals will say, Lord, haven't we healed the sick? Haven't we raised the dead? Haven't we spoken in tongues? Haven't we done so many wonderful works in your name? Haiti, for an example. We gave our money to Haiti. And he's going to say, depart from me, I never knew you, you workers of iniquity. Because this church system is satanic driven. It has nothing to do with God. And Jesus Christ himself will destroy this system with the brightness of his coming. Now in later videos, we're going to get into how wicked this modern day church system is. We're going to get into how this church system is wicked and evil to its core, and how people inside of it are so deceived, without the exception of the ones that God has called to be conformed to the image of Christ or the nature of Christ. But the majority in this system are so wicked that they're involved in the world, entangled in the world, actually involved in worship of creation rather than the Creator, which the Lord told us through Scripture would clearly be a sign of the end times or the last days. But that's what we're going to get into. But basically, this is a warning from Jesus saying, stay away from this church system. It is wicked to its core. It will destroy you. It has nothing to do with me. I will destroy it in the end. And even though they will say, Lord, Lord, to me, I will tell them to depart from me, because they are workers of iniquity. The Roman Catholic Church is wicked to its core, and any offspring that comes off of that is wicked to its core. It's not about the Bible Church down here. It's not about the Presbyterian Church or the United Methodist Church down here. It is about this whole wicked system as an entire being. And that being is driven by the spirit of Antichrist. We'll get into later how it is probably, most possibly, the strong delusion that's referred to in the book of Thessalonians, or 1st or 2nd Thessalonians, the strong delusion that God sends. Will show how we think, why I believe that this church system is that strong delusion. But let's heed the warning. Jesus says, stay away from this false prophet. Stay away from this false church system. Nothing good can come of it. Stay on the straight gate and the narrow road that leads to life. Until next time, to the genuine born-again believers in Jesus Christ, God bless.